Welcome, future educators, to today's Explainer. Look, I know preparing for your certification exams can feel absolutely overwhelming. It's like you're drowning in a sea of academic jargon and endless standards. But today, we're going to tackle Competency 003M together. We're going to ditch the dry textbook definitions, decode the actual theory, and most importantly, we're going to bridge the gap between this exam standard and the real, living, breathing students you'll be teaching in your future classroom. So let's just dive right in.
Section 1. The Classroom Reality, Navigating Student Health.
Okay, let's skip the theory for a second and jump straight into what this actually looks like when you're standing at the front of the room. I want you to picture your future classroom. It's a Tuesday morning, right before the bell rings. You're organizing your desk, and you overhear a group of your fourth graders huddled over by the cubbies. They're actively discussing a social media advertisement they saw on a phone over the weekend. They're talking about a quick-fix weight loss plan and comparing themselves to this incredibly idealized, highly edited body image from the ad. Right there in your classroom, they are actively grappling with these massive external media messages.
Now, you might be thinking, well, wait a minute. I'm going to teach math or reading. Why is this my problem? It's a completely valid question. Ask yourself why it's your responsibility to help them unpack these messages instead of just jumping into your lesson plan. Here's the reality. A student who's struggling with poor body image or trying out unhealthy habits based on what some influencer said online, they're not going to be fully present for your math lesson. They just aren't. As your teacher, you are literally on the front lines of their overall development.
Section 2. Decoding Health Influences and Making Sense of Competency 003M.
To understand exactly why your intervention in that fourth grade conversation matters so much, we need to map that scenario directly to the formal exam standard you're studying for. The competency basically states that a teacher understands the influence of various factors like media, technology, peers, and environmental hazards on health. It specifically calls out things like idealized body images and unhealthy weight loss plans. So, what this descriptor actually means is that as a beginning teacher, you've got to recognize that your students are being bombarded by these external sources every single day. It's absolutely crucial professional knowledge.
Think about this quote right from our source material. Health is influenced by many factors beyond individual choices. The big aha moment here is that your students' health behaviors don't just happen in a vacuum. When a kid makes a poor nutritional choice or suddenly develops anxiety about how they look, it's rarely just an isolated choice they made out of nowhere. It is heavily shaped by the world around them, their families, their friends, and the media they're consuming.
Section 3. Key academic language and the terms you need to know.
Now, to ace this exam and sound like the professional you are when talking to parents and colleagues, we need to translate some academic vocabulary into practical concepts. Think of a student's daily life as a giant wheel of influences. We've got four main pieces here. First is media, the TV, social feeds, and magazines. Then technology, the literal devices, the smartphones and tablets they use to get that media. Third is peer influence, the massive effect their friends have on them. And finally, environmental hazards, the physical conditions in their neighborhood that might impact their health. All four of these are constantly interacting with your kids. Let's unpack a few more of these specific terms you've got to master. Idealized body image, that's the completely unrealistic standard of physical appearance we talked about in our fourth grade scenario. Then there's community health, which looks at the broader well-being of the actual neighborhood your students live in. And peer influence is exactly how classmates affect each other's decisions. And, a term like idealized body image isn't just something you memorize from a glossary. It's something you're going to hear manifesting directly in the conversations your kids have in the cafeteria.
Moving to Section 4. Media Literacy in Action, from Theory to Pedagogy.
Okay, let's get back into the classroom. How does a teacher actually execute a lesson to combat all this negative influence? Because identifying the problem is only half the battle, right? Knowing how to teach through it is what makes you an expert. The real game changer here is media literacy. That's the ability to analyze, evaluate, and interpret the messages coming through media sources. For the exam, keep in mind that they focus heavily on media literacy. This is the exact skill you have to teach your students, so they can build up a sort of mental shield against unrealistic messages when they're scrolling at home.
And here is exactly how you put that into action. Step 1. Pull up some advertisements on your smartboard and analyze them together as a whole class. Step 2. Facilitate a really open discussion on how that specific marketing is trying to influence what we want to eat or buy. And step 3, have the students evaluate how those ads change their own body image perceptions and consumer decisions. This is pedagogy at its best. Just like with our fourth graders earlier, you're guiding them step by step to critically evaluate the world they live in.
Section 5. Reflect on your practice and making instructional decisions. I want you to hit pause for a second. Put yourself right in the driver's seat as the instructional leader of your room. Let's do a quick mental rehearsal. What would you do if, right in the middle of a lesson, a student brings up an unhealthy weight loss plan they saw online, maybe endorsed by a really famous influencer? How do you react? You can't just ignore it, but you absolutely shouldn't shame them for it either. Mentally rehearse how you'd respond right then and there to pivot that sensitive topic into a lesson on media literacy, guiding them toward healthy decision-making.
As you're planning these kinds of lessons, you've got to ask yourself some key questions. How are different students going to respond? How does analyzing a fast food commercial support diverse learners who might live in areas where fresh food is really hard to find? What instructional decisions are actually going to make this material stick? You really have to consider how different backgrounds and family norms affect how your kids interpret media, and how you can tailor your teaching to support every single one of them without any judgment whatsoever.
Section 6. Ready for the classroom. Exam takeaways and beyond.
Let's pull the whole shebang together so you're totally prepared to crush this test and step confidently into your new career. If you remember nothing else, lock in these 3 takeaways. Number 1, health behaviors are heavily influenced by external factors like media, tech, peers, and environment. Number 2, media literacy isn't just a tech skill, it is a critically important health skill. And number 3, students absolutely must learn to evaluate information critically to protect their own well-being. These are the core principles of Competency 003M.
But let's look way past the exam for a minute. As a teacher, you have this incredible power to help your students navigate an incredibly complex world of influences and help them build lifelong healthy habits. Seriously, remember that. You aren't just memorizing this stuff so you can bubble in the right answer on a multiple-choice test. You are learning this to actively protect, guide, and empower the real kids who are going to be sitting in your classroom looking up to you.
So I'm going to leave you with this final thought. What will this look like when you are teaching your own students? When that inevitable moment happens and a child comes to you totally confused by what the internet is telling them about their body or their health, how will you rise to the occasion? Keep that scenario in your mind as you continue studying and visualize the massive, life-changing impact you're going to make as an educator. Thank you so much for hanging out with me in this explainer. Keep learning, keep reflecting, and I can't wait to see the incredible teachers you're all going to become.